They've just sent a surprising message to Bruins fans after this brand new trade report has dropped, continuing to detail the St. Louis Blues as the biggest trade partner for this Boston Bruins team, with one and a few more new names thrown into the mix here. There's been a very interesting follow-up to that with what would be going back in any proposed trade. We're going to be breaking it down, going over this, as well as a few updates here at the end of this video, so be sure to stick around for all of that news. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for all of your Boston Bruins news, be sure to hit the sub button. We're going to have it all right here, as we are officially 7 days away. Little under 7 days, actually, at this point right now, away from the NHL trade deadline. And if you want all your news from the games, from the moves, from the trades, everything, we're going to have it all here on the channel. You won't want to miss it, and you're going to stay up to date with all of your Bruins stuff. And also, be sure on any other platforms you're listening this to right now, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, be sure to give it a follow as well. But you guys know, we're on the big road to 8K subs here on YouTube, and we're currently sitting at 7,729. So if you haven't already, and you're looking for your Bruins news, be sure to hit that sub button and join us here on the channel. Let me know, with all of this kind of new report, we're going to get a bit more information on this right now, but what do you think is the biggest need for the Bruins here at this deadline? Let me know down below. But going into this report, and kind of an update over the past couple of Bruins games, especially going into last night, you see this from Anthony DeMarco right here. The St. Louis Blues are another team that the Bruins have had discussions with. The Blues have had several notable players on the trade block, but the Blues assistant GM Tim Taylor and Vice President of Hockey Operations Peter Chiarelli were in attendance for the Bruins game last night, which doesn't seem like coincidence at this point, and it is most certainly not, because we know the Bruins' biggest need is defense. We've seen Justin Faulk, Colton Parayko has fallen into the mix as of late, both on the St. Louis Blues, and you would think that's really where it all ends up, because the biggest need for this Bruins team is notably that second line right defenseman. Andrew Peeke seems to be on his way out, at least right now. He's very unlikely to be staying on this team post-trade deadline, unless they let him walk in free agency, which would be a waste of an asset. But when it comes down to Justin Faulk, we've spoken about him being a little too old, not really fitting the Bruins scheme. But Colton Parayko falls into this in a very interesting point, because he's 32. He's a bit younger. He is much more of a defensive defenseman. One very, very big need for this Bruins team. Locking in the second-ranked leader in blocks on this season would certainly be a nice asset. Now, he's not a guy that's going to go put the puck in the back of the net for you by any means. But we have that. We have the players that can do that. And that is one big thing to really keep in mind as we progress closer to the deadline and what will be a hopeful postseason run, and a nice one. May not be the year for the Bruins. Very unlikely is. But Colton Parayko certainly would provide the help right there. And I mean, once again, I'll pull up his rankings here, his percentiles, you can see. Number 2 ranked on blocks, 226 in hits, which is still, whatever it is, but that's 74th percentile. And he's also very good on the takeaways, ranked 46 in the NHL with 21. And he will eat up a chunk of minutes on the ice. So he's a very interesting option. However, with the defenseman, everything, we know there's a lot of names that have fallen into the bucket of defensemen needed, but also a lot of names that have fallen in for these teams of defensemen that are available. Now, one thing that kind of really piqued the interest here from this continued report from Anthony DeMarco is this. The fourth period mentioned Blues captain Brayden Schenn as a target for Sweeney, and while there is no reason to believe this isn't the case, sources indicated to DFO that 26-year-old pivot Robert Thomas is a name for the Bruins, and that they really like. Robert Thomas, who's only 26, carries an $8.125 million AAV until 2031, would fit exactly the mold the Bruins are looking for, and the price for Thomas is astronomical. Keep that in mind. GM Doug Armstrong is a very heavy set prices on all of his assets, as he is leveraging the lack of sellers on the market and drawing the hard line in negotiations. That is one thing at the end there that we've kind of understood at this point, and really why we've counted out Justin Faulk. Now, with all of this, Robert Thomas is a very interesting name being linked, because we've seen the need for a Bruins center. That so much this season hasn't been overly the case. It still certainly will be nice to see another center come into this team, whenever that may be. And whether it is a Robert Thomas, someone who fits the mold a bit longer, and you see is a very solid player over this season, 33 points, 11 goals, 22 assists, shooting the puck, which is a very important thing, a little over 50% on the faceoffs, which is obviously very nice to see. But the big thing is he is locked up for a long time. 26 years old. It's exactly what you want, isn't it? When it comes to Brayden Schenn, not so much. He's a little bit on the older side. He's a little bit of a player now that, once again, doesn't fit the mold. 34 years old, a little bit older, though it is a 54% faceoff percentage. If you're going to be trading to the St. Louis Blues, you need to make sure that you are getting a guy that, if you have to overpay for, which we know the Bruins are not too keen on here in this offseason, you need to make sure that they will be with the team until this team gets back to a Stanley Cup run. And that could be as early as next year, the year after that. They're in a great place right now to be able to do that. And with this lineup right now, it's only a few more pieces that you really need to see. A defenseman, and the goaltending is good. This team is in a good spot. I think there's no way to take out that. But one thing that you would, really have to throw in here into the mix would be someone to be able to get a Robert Thomas. This is where things get interesting. And I think this is how really, a message was sent to us as, fans just watching this trade deadline unfold so far, even though the Bruins haven't made a move. And we know they're going to be very careful. They're going to be very vigilant on the market. This report from Anthony DeMarco changes a lot. The Bruins have 4 first-round picks over the next 2 drafts. Perhaps, of course, that Toronto one is weird. There's a lot of conditions on those weird, but they're willing to part ways with some of the better prospects like Matthew Poitras and Dean Letourneau. That is the first we've heard for that one. Though the exact asking price is not yet clear for Thomas, the Bruins certainly have the ammunition to at least stay in the mix until the finish line. Now, having Dean Letourneau in this is a bit interesting because we had seen so far this season the way these two have played at Boston College, and we've really looked over the past, year so far since we've really seen Dean Letourneau come into a very, very solid player. 33 points in 30 games after a terrible last year. He is a guy that many people think will be your 1B behind James Hagens when it all comes to be. You have right now a few young players, and that's going to be the case. But when you're thinking about Dean Letourneau, it seems like he is way younger, way younger than, let's just say, a Robert Thomas, which he's 20 years old. Robert Thomas is 26. There's not that much of a difference. And this gives the Bruins, at least right now, a big conversation to have as to if they think Dean Letourneau is worth trading. I think Matt Poitras certainly has been one that has been here. Keep in mind, he's also only 21 years old. He is still super young, but the Bruins have had some time to make up their mind with Matt Poitras. He has had, a handful of games, still yet to play a full season over his career of 82 games. But when it comes down to a guy like Robert Thomas, it's not every day you can get a player like that. So if it has to be Matt Poitras, that's fine. Dean Letourneau, I'm a bit questionable on, but there are so many more assets I feel like could be moved in this. We haven't heard Merkelov's voice this year. We haven't heard Lysell, or their names, not their voice. There's a lot of players that I think really have a better option of going as filler pieces. You may have to give up more assets, but not as highly touted ones. And that's why I think that this is going to be a bit of a question when it comes surrounding the St. Louis Blues in specific. But the fact that we're looking at a few forwards as well is very interesting and something that we are going to continue to discuss here on the channel over this next week before we get to next Friday's NHL trade deadline. So if you want to stay up to date with everything, be sure to hit the sub button. Hit the follow button wherever you watch. Be sure to just join us here, whatever kind of a platform or, joining thing that may be, because we have a lot of stuff coming, and I mean, like this coming up, the forwards, mixing it with the defense, mixing it with the right defense that we've seen for the past weeks. It's getting crazy, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm thinking a move is coming very, very soon because Don Sweeney is ready to go. We know that, and it's only a matter of time until we see a move be made. So be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. But let me know down below what you think about this. Should the Bruins trade for one of these forwards from the Blues? Give me a Y for yes and N for no. And I'm a bit more leaning towards Robert Thomas, if any. But still, if the price is wrong, Don Sweeney knows that he is not making a deal. We just got to trust the process. So if you want to stay up to date, like I said, hit the sub button down below. We're going to have everything here on the channel. But that is all I have here in this one. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.